Now I'm 23, and it happened when I was 10 years old, but still this story was imprinted in my memory, thanks to my childhood impressionability. However, I would not say that this story is scary, but it is very creepy. Summer, hot sun, unreal heat. I was visiting my grandmother in the village. At that time, there were a lot of relatives there, some even came from other cities to see each other. Oddly enough, it was a summer day on the 13th, Friday. We were going to go to the lake, as in the previous days. In general, there was no sign of trouble. However, grandmother insisted that we did not go anywhere, because the road to the lake passed through the forest. On foot, at a slow pace, maybe 30 minutes to go. She said that on such a day the goblin walks through the forest and confuses travelers, leading them astray. Well, everyone laughed, including me. As a child, it even scared me. We got ready to go, took with us everything we needed for swimming. There were quite a lot of us, a sister, 2 cousins, a second cousin, a girlfriend, well, and me. The oldest and most responsible person was a second cousin. At that time she was closer to 30 years old, and she took over the steering wheel. We all knew the road very well, since we had been walking along it to the lake for many years, and we did not even imagine what would happen next. After entering the forest, everyone joked and talked. The forest was insanely beautiful, fascinating. But then I realized that I don't recognize the area. And then the listener will easily guess that we managed to get lost. That's right. Got lost. We got lost in the forest, which we know like the back of our fingers, but this is just the beginning. Horror ahead. I look ahead and see an old sawmill, but there shouldn't be any in this forest. I've never heard that they are here, however, I had to believe my eyes. We stopped near her, literally trampled for 2 minutes, and went on. The atmosphere was tense. Walking past the sawmill, leaving it on the right hand, we returned 10 minutes later to it, realized that we were walking in circles. Then we decided to go past her, but tried to go the other way without stepping on our tracks. The road was sandy, and we could see our own tracks very well. Walking behind everyone, inspired by everything that is happening, I jokingly wrote 666 on the sand with a branch. My personal beacon, because if I see this inscription again, there is no doubt, we are walking in a circle. Alright. We went back to this sawmill again, and I saw this inscription. The girls were scared when they saw it, but I said in time that I had left the inscription. We decided to turn around and go in the opposite direction. And then we came to a green clearing. It was not wide, there are trees on both sides. And then I saw something that immediately took a smile from my face. In the distance, on the left side, I saw people in black with black hoods on their heads, standing facing us in the order of a pyramid, like billiard balls. There was 1 in front and 5 in the back. I was shocked. I even stopped and grabbed my chest, but realized that I forgot to put on a cross. And others went and didn't notice anything. Overpowering myself, I took a step after the company in order not to fall behind. When I got as close as possible, I realized that it seemed to me these were trees, burnt from the ground to the height of a man, charred. It seemed very strange to me. A new surprise was waiting for us. Coming out of this clearing, we came to a large stream. A log bridge was thrown over it, and someone was sitting on the other side. Crossing the stream, we saw that it was unclear who was sitting on the path. A black hood with a lowered face. In his hand he was holding a black bloody bird. It seemed to be a crow. We were all terribly embarrassed and took a step back. We were no longer in the mood to swim, and second cousin Yulia, as the oldest person among us, ventured to ask how we could return to our village and which way to go. This figure only raised his hand and pointed his finger in the direction, without moving or saying a word. We moved in that direction and returned to the sawmill. It was already a panic. We got off the track and went perpendicular to it from the sawmill, and came across a military unit that was 10 minutes from our house. We started yelling, and 2 soldiers came out to us. They escorted us to the village. It took 2 to 3 minutes. We were glad that we didn't have to spend the night in the forest. And in the evening, before going to bed, when I was drinking tea with my grandmother, I told her about everything that had happened, and she said, "They say," she warned us, that the goblin was leading us in circles, and the hooded figure with a dead bird in his hands was the devil. And she scolded that she didn't wear a cross. In general, it was then that paranormality and mysticism deprived me of my virginity in this regard. Now something is happening in my life that an ordinary person can't even guess about, but this is completely different. The second story. In July 2007, I was 16 years old, vacationing with my grandmother in the village. There were always a lot of acquaintances there, and while my mother was away, my grandmother did not limit me in time. My grandmother's village is small, only 2 streets and 3 lanterns. There are many legends, they say, and a witch lived there, that the ghost of a white horse walks on the bridge, that the ghost of a teacher and her daughter live in an abandoned house, and souls come out of the cemetery every night. And the village is pagan, and no one thought to consecrate abnormal places. We gathered in a small company at a friend's house, sang songs to the guitar, and told scary stories. Closer to 2 o'clock in the morning they went home, and I stayed with a friend. We've been friends with him since childhood, decided to chat a little more. I'm sitting on a chair and telling him a story, and he's lying on the bed, and fell asleep. Damn, it's like I told him a bedtime story, but I can't wake him up with a tank. I sat, thought about it, and decided to go alone. But according to the law of meanness, the battery on the phone is dead, and, as I said, there are not so many lanterns on the street. I went out the gate, and there the cold is terrible, like summer, but I referred to the fact that the village is near the river. I'm standing and thinking how to get to the house, go to another street, go through the whole village, but I thought that my heart would not stand, because I'm a coward and I see all sorts of nonsense in the dark, through an abandoned house. During the day the path was often shortened, but at night it's not an option at all, or go through the shortest way, not far from the cemetery. I chose the third way, because it's the shortest and not so scary. I'm walking, and on one side the grass is high, and there's some kind of noise. Earlier, even if I was walking with someone, I was scared, but here the peace of mind and the air became warm. And in my head, it's hedgehogs running and making noise, but I turned my gaze towards the cemetery. And from there something white, like a cloud, is moving towards me. And it's not scary at all. I even smiled at that moment. And with a calm step, she reached the gate of the house. But as soon as I closed the gate behind me, it was like being doused with ice water, this cold, and a panic attack in addition began again. I ran to knock on the door. Grandma quickly opened the door and said, "Stupid, why are you walking alone at night? It would be better to stay at home." It all went into the house, put the phone on charge and turned it on, and as it turned out, this night was Friday 13. The neighbor believed me and said that a relative who was buried in the cemetery guarded me to the gate of the house. And the only one I have there is only my grandfather.